the Kingdom of Evermore and the Curse of the Oblivions. Long ago in the prosperous Kingdom of Evermore, the people lived by a simple rule. Gold must flow, and hands must build. Farmers tilled the fields, merchants traded their wares, and scholars filled the libraries with knowledge. But Evermore had a problem. It was not war, nor famine, nor plague. It was the Oblivions. No one knew where they came from, but every town had them. They walked among the people, not in rags nor in riches, not wielding weapons nor carrying tools, and yet wherever they went, things fell apart. Some said the Oblivions were cursed by the gods, others believed they were simply born that way, but what made them most dangerous was this. They did not know they were Oblivions. The 5 laws of the Oblivions. First law, the Oblivions are everywhere. No town, no castle, no guild was free from them. They could be farmers, merchants, or kings. They looked like anyone else, and that was the problem. You could never tell who was an Oblivion until it was too late. Even the wisest scholar, the sharpest merchant, and the strongest knight would fall victim to an Oblivion's influence. And yet, whenever someone pointed it out, another would say, "Oh, come now. They are not an Oblivion. They are just doing what everyone else is doing." But they were wrong. Just because everyone is doing it doesn't make it a good idea. Second law, the Oblivions are more dangerous than a bandit. A bandit might steal your gold. An Oblivion might burn the whole market down while trying to light a candle. A knight might lose a duel. An Oblivion might drop his sword, trip over it, and stab 3 people by accident. A tax collector might take too much. An Oblivion might take so much the people would not survive the winter, and from them no further taxes would ever come. Oblivions do not act out of malice. They simply cause destruction without reason and without knowledge of their damage, and this made them far deadlier than any enemy. An Oblivion harms everyone, even himself. The blacksmith Joran once hired an apprentice named Pell. Pell was friendly and eager, but Pell was an Oblivion. He left the forge door open, and thieves stole all the iron. He overfed the fire, and the chimney cracked. He sharpened a sword backward, ruining it. And when the forge collapsed from his mistakes, Pell simply shrugged. "It is not my fault," he said, and blamed the bricklayer that built the forge. But the forge was ruined, Joran was broke, and Pell simply wandered off to find new work. For this is the way of the Oblivions. They harm all, including themselves, yet never understand why, and ultimately blame others for their woes. It's the only thing that makes sense to them. Fourth law, the Oblivions are not just simpletons. They may be rich, they may be powerful. The people of Evermore believed that only the witless and uneducated could be Oblivions. But then King Orwin took the throne. Orwin had gold properties, and he claimed an education. He had friends and advisors and castles beyond count. And yet he was an Oblivion. He waged war against a kingdom half his kingdom's size because he believed they would surrender from fear alone. They did not. Evermore burned. He spent the kingdom's treasury on statues of himself, believing that gold would appear if only people believed in his greatness. It did not. The kingdom starved. When the people rebelled, he gave the army spears made of glass because he thought they were fancy and the people would be impressed. They shattered in battle. Evermore fell. And so the people learned an Oblivion with power is the deadliest thing of all. Fifth law, the greatest mistake is believing you can reason with an Oblivion. The wisest minds in Evermore gathered and said, "We must teach the Oblivions. If they understand their folly, they will change." And so they built a great academy. They brought the Oblivions inside and taught them math, logic, and the wisdom of history. And when the lessons were done, the Oblivions clapped, cheered, and nodded. Then they set fire to the library because someone disagreed with a book. And so the wise men left the ruins in silence. "What is the matter?" asked the Oblivion. "It is not our fault. We did what we thought was right." The wise men had learned their lesson. An Oblivion does not listen. An Oblivion does not change. And if you waste your breath trying to fix an Oblivion, you are the Oblivion instead. The takeaway, the Oblivions will always be among us. Some say Evermore still stands. Others say it was destroyed long ago by an Oblivion who knocked over a lantern chasing a false promise. But those who tell its story always end with the same warning. Beware the Oblivions. They do not wear signs, they do not carry swords, they do not act with malice, and yet they will burn down the world if left unchecked. Remember, recognize them, avoid them, and for the love of Evermore, never follow them. The end.